Hey everyone, how's it going? Welcome back to another video here. So in this one, I wanted to talk about Rick, Daryl, and Carol because we got a reunion teaser at Comic-Con, and I really do want to break down these comments because I feel like where we're going right now in the next couple of years here is going to be this build towards a Rick, Daryl, and Carol reunion, along with other characters as well, but the question was more asked in reference to Rick, Daryl, and Carol because it was during the Walking Dead Daryl Dixon Season 2 panel. So make sure to be a subscriber if you want to get all my Walking Dead content like this. Obviously, the big news last night was that Robert Downey Jr. has been cast as Dr. Doom, and I really do think that this is hilariously gonna have an effect on all franchises going forward, because it seemed like over the last couple of years that things were sort of, trending downwards, I would say, in terms of like building up a cinematic universe. People just didn't really have that much interest. It just kind of seemed like everything was kind of falling a bit, right? But the excitement that people have that Robert Downey Jr. is going to be coming back to play Dr. Doom, or not coming back to play Dr. Doom, but coming back to the MCU and is playing Dr. Doom, I think is going to have an effect on The Walking Dead as well as other franchises, because studios always copy each other, right? Like whenever there's something that is very successful, they're going to try and do that as well. Like that's just sort of how things in media go in general. Whenever something is successful, you keep trying to copy that and keep trying to do that until it's not successful anymore, and then you do something else and you just sort of, you're just always trying to make money. You're always trying to be successful, right? And I feel like with Robert Downey Jr., based off of the response last night, a lot of studios are going to look at this and be like, this is our chance to capitalize on this. And I think that that is likely what they're going to do. And so for The Walking Dead, in terms of reuniting Rick Grimes and Daryl Dixon and everyone else, this is going to be something that I think is going to be built towards quite a bit. And, this could change a lot of AMC's plans in terms of, the next couple of years for The Walking Dead spinoffs, because I've been talking about it for quite a bit, but The Walking Dead only has like 2 spinoffs right now. Like The Ones Who Live could get renewed for a season 2, or they could do a new series in the future. It seems likely that they are going to come back and do some sort of story, like with Denai Guerrera and Andrew Lincoln. Might have Morgan, join that show, or other characters from Alexandria. So that seems to be likely and most likely going to be a spinoff that comes up before we ever get the Rick and Daryl reunion. But I really do feel like Robert Downey Jr. coming back to the MCU is going to really change a lot of that, because I think AMC's plans over the last couple of years has really been, let's tone down some of the cinematic universe stuff. Even though I know that they are kind of doing it, it just feels like it, because if you look at the 2 shows out right now, yes, they are increasing to 8 episodes, but if you just look at what's coming out for 2024, it's not a lot. You had The Ones Who Live in February and in March, and that was only 6 episodes, and you have Daryl Dixon Season 2 coming out in September here, and that's only going to be 6 episodes as well. So it is not a lot, and people want a lot more, and I do feel it. I see those comments all the time. People want a lot more Walking Dead content, and that was one of the things that is definitely very unfortunate that Scott Gimple wasn't able to be there this year, because he's the one that gives us all that hype, that teases the future. He's the one with all that information. We'll get into David Zabel's comments right away regarding the reunion and everything like that, but in terms of Scott Gimple and all of his plans, he's the one that can really reveal a lot of that, and everyone else in the creative process might not know as much as he does, because obviously he's the one that's really driving all of this, right? Like he's creating all the stories, he's coming up with all the show ideas, this and that, and I think that The Walking Dead definitely needs another like new original series out there right now, and I think that is likely going to be something that does probably get announced over the next couple of months here. If it's not in the next couple of months, I do predict in the next year, like within the next year, we're going to get an announcement of a new Walking Dead spinoff of some kind. I don't know what it's going to be, but it's going to be of something. Again, because right now there's going to be a lot of excitement for cinematic universes and all of that, and Robert Downey Jr. is really creating that excitement for Marvel again. And I will say, I think, well, I'll talk about that more in a video later on today. I'm actually going to be doing a video later on tonight on Avengers Doomsday and talk about Tony Stark becoming Dr. Doom, or what I think exactly they're likely going to be doing with that story. And so for AMC to capitalize on this right now, to be like, you know what, this is where, things are going right now over the next like 4 or 5 years. Walking Dead fans want a lot more of this. I could definitely see in the next, like within the next year, an announcement of some kind that we're going to be getting a new spinoff, and also the storylines to focus a lot more on crossovers and building towards that reunion that we all want. It seems like the reunion that everyone wants online right now is specifically Rick and Daryl. And so the Walking Dead account on Twitter, it's actually Skybound's account, it's not AMC's, but they tweeted a video out with the caption, "Will Daryl, Rick, and Carol reunite?" And David Zabel, who is the showrunner, responds with, they are building towards something right now. They are focusing on season 3 right now, though, but it seems like the plan is to build the story in that direction. And I'm obviously paraphrasing there, but that does seem to be the overall direction right now, I think, for The Walking Dead, is they need to establish some more of a story before you get Rick and Daryl reuniting again. I think if the next season, in season 3, they just showed up and they reunited, I personally would be very, I guess, disappointed by that, because it's kind of happening out of nowhere. I want more of a story worked out, a lot more excitement to build up to the reveal. And I think the actors know it as well. They know that if they ever came back in some sort of project as Rick Grimes and Daryl Dixon in a show together, that people are going to be going absolutely insane. And so it's all about building that excitement, right? And where could they go in terms of a story? Well, I think the one thing that they could focus on is Madame Janae's experiments with super walkers, and as well the CRM's experiments with, I guess, walkers in general, because they both tried to experiment with walkers, but obviously Madame Janae was very, very successful, right? And the CRM tried to focus more on finding a cure. They failed quite a bit. They also tried to use it as a weapon and whatnot to take out cities like Omaha. They were doing a bunch of stuff, and I think the CRM right now trying to find a cure makes way more sense, and I think is the next logical step in all of this, because, I mean, you gotta think of it, right? Like the CRM, they're essentially like S.H.I.E.L.D. now, and I know I'm making a lot of Marvel references, but the CRM used to be S.H.I.E.L.D. that was being operated by Hydra, right? And so you take out Beale, you take out Hydra or whatever, and now the CRM is basically just S.H.I.E.L.D. now. It's gonna be one of those like bases that Rick and everyone else can go to for help, and obviously help out other survivors out there and whatnot. And I think that's probably one of the better storylines, I think, from The Ones Who Live, is the fact that ending Beale's storyline, you do sort of create more of an excitement for whatever the future can be with the CRM. I think we all just have to change our perspective on what the CRM was going to be in terms of Major General Beale. The CRM could still be that. They're not going to be villains necessarily. Again, Beale was sort of that, but I think we all have to change our view on how big of a villain Major General Beale was. And I know that it seemed like he was this big villain, which obviously he wasn't, but that shouldn't hurt The Walking Dead, right? Like that shouldn't hurt like what the story's going to be in the future. There's a lot more exciting things that they actually teased that are still actual storylines out there, but everyone likes to focus on Major General Beale. If you think about it, there were conferences in Ohio with the Primrose team, scientists from Madame Janae's group, and the CRM were both in attendance there, right? I don't know how much they're aware of each other, and I think some of those questions, obviously, we still have, but all of this happened right before the apocalypse, right? And so, looking at it now, obviously Madame Janae was a lot more successful with all of this, and Madame Janae, we don't know a lot about her backstory. We don't know how she came to power. Obviously, the group that she has, I mean, were they all scientists in the beginning and then eventually they got this following? Like, how exactly did her group start? And that's just what's funny about all of it, is that Madame Janae was just like way more successful with everything than the CRM were. But again, I think they both had different ideas with that overall, right? Like, they wanted to do different things entirely. And I think the next direction here and where they can go is Daryl coming back to America with some of these variant walkers, or I guess super walkers is what they're calling them now. I think that's how the reunion's actually going to happen. It's not going to be Rick Grimes going to Spain or France or what have you. It's going to be whatever Daryl is dealing with there. In some way, the story is going to eventually end up back in America. Daryl and Carol will be back in America, I'm sure, at some point during The Walking Dead Daryl Dixon. I don't know if that's where that show ends, then eventually they go to a Walking Dead Endgame show, or how they're planning to do all of that there, but it seems like the CRM will be involved in some storyline with Rick, just because of what Denai Guerrero was saying, about a season 2 or whatnot. And so we're just in a really interesting place right now. Like, that's the thing that I would just say, is that we're in a really interesting place where we're all trying to figure out what's next for The Walking Dead. Like, how does everything come together here? Because we know Rick and Daryl are eventually going to reunite. We see where the shows are going in the future, but we need that overall world building excitement again that we had with the CRM. I would say that is still there. The only thing that is missing is Beale as the overall villain, because I think a lot of fans want a newer villain, right? I think that's one of the issues with Marvel as well, is that you had Kang the Conqueror as the villain, and a lot of people weren't really fans of him. And so Robert Downey Jr. playing Doctor Doom, I think, him being the main villain here for Doomsday as well as Secret Wars, I think it's just going to be really exciting. And that's what The Walking Dead needs to do next. And I think they all know that. Like, obviously, Gimple is going to see the fan reaction to all this. Like, everyone knows that. Studios know that. They all know how a lot of us feel regarding The Ones Who Live's ending. And I think that's going to be a big focus here going in the next, the next couple of years here, is fixing a lot of that, introducing a new villain and coming up with a bigger story here. And again, I brought up Robert Downey Jr. a lot in this video, but I really do feel like that announcement last night is going to change a lot of studios, I guess, ideas on franchises like this, like Marvel, DC, The Walking Dead. I think they're all looking at it like, you know what, the next couple of years is going to be really exciting, and I think we can do a lot of fun stuff here. Because if you just look at the cast in general, like they have a lot of fun together. I know I didn't focus on everything that we learned at Comic-Con in terms of all the conversations and just a lot of the, what was said at the panel, but what was funny was Norman Reedus saying that he owes about $16,000, he thinks anyways, to Andrew Lincoln in like some game that I've heard about a lot as a kid, and I still don't even know how to play it at all. And again, all the pranks with the Walking Dead cast, we've all heard about that. So I think just doing something like that again in the future is something that they're all really excited about. And obviously, like, they all want to do that. And so again, the cast has a lot of fun hanging out. They've been apart for years now, though. And I think that's why the reunion, like, they know that is something that they all want to do. Imagine a Comic-Con with Andrew Lincoln and Norman Reedus actually together promoting the same show again. It's been years since we got that, and I think we are closer than we think. Like, I do think that before 2030, we are going to get that reunion. I know that seems like really far away, that's 6 years away, but you got to think of it in terms of where the next shows are going to be coming out, right? Like Daryl Dixon season 3 is coming out in 2025, which means that season 5 would be out in 2027. And so if that is the last season there, I guess maybe it happens in 2028, right? Which would be like 4 years from now. But remember, they got to build up some of the story within the next 3 to 4 years to get to that reunion story. Also, before that, if the reunion between Rick and Daryl is happening in 2028, we're going to get the announcements before that and all the build, I guess, to this series. So yeah, they got a lot of world building here that they have to do. And I imagine the reason why David Zabel responded, I think, to that question is because obviously if he's working with Scott Gimple on Daryl Dixon, he's likely learning some of the details that Scott Gimple's telling him, like, you have to sort of introduce this, or I want this idea in here. We're going to go here for season 3 and 4 or whatever, because this is going to connect in some way to, the Rick and Daryl reunion. So they are going to know some stuff like that. So yeah, that's why these comments are very, very exciting. So anyways, I'm going to leave it here. Definitely post all your thoughts down below. Hope you guys all enjoyed the video, and I'll see you in the next one.